used to talking into the microphone.
Yeah, no, me too.
It's a little bit weird hearing myself, like, kind of like in God? Not me, the voice. Well, it's kind of hard to explain because you kind of have to go back in time a little bit here in Atlanta. I started around the late 80s, early 90s. And Atlanta has its own kind of swag. New York, they came here because their family members live here, like their mamas or their grandmas live over here. And they come here and visit, but also Miami used to come here, and Miami is basically a New York clone, and they come here and visit family and all that. But one twist of it all is, like, especially during my era, a lot of ATL tried to mimic almost Oakland a little bit, especially in the hip hop arena and rap, MCing. And we also got a little bit of like a southern hospitality way of approaching the art. So yeah, we got it looking like hip hop, but not hip hop like Brooklyn, Bronx, South Bronx type of graffiti letters. We got our own little our own little twist to it. And there were guys back in my humble beginnings that their style more represented or looked a little bit more kind of Cali-esque, but mostly like the Bay Area-esque. In my initial findings when I started to venture out. All right, now I come from a gang neighborhood. I come from a gang element. I didn't learn graffiti via, like everybody, like, oh man, we have a block party. We're gonna get power from the poles outside. Nah, I'm from the hood. So I just found that the graffiti that I saw that was attached to skateboarding, like, really pulled me away from the gang element. So I actually got into graffiti more from skateboarding and this kind of like hieroglyphics, Bay Area, twist from over there in the Bay Area, dreams type of vibe, where it's not really their style, it's just the way that they were, where everybody was really chill and everybody is real peace. And also too, like, we didn't have any distinct, we gotta look like New York. So since we didn't have to do that, we could make ATL however we wanted to do it. We didn't have no internet, we didn't have no none of that. All we had was the back of the source, where they had the graph with pages, and that's what we had. And then there was a few places here in Atlanta that had graph magazines, but they were like more like zines. They were more like skateboard zines where it would be black and white printed photos of people that we don't even know who they are. I don't, to this day there were just people in that I still don't know who they were, but it gets you motivated. If you're a young ATLian with goals in your mouth, that to try and like paint style. So we had a different approach than any other places because New York had its already established thing going. We even got some of that history here, so but we didn't have that kind of thing, I think it let us be free to kind of like have our own way of doing things, and I'm coming from an old school type of mentality. I'm coming from late 80s, early 90s. So anything that we're talking in the year after 2010, I don't even really have anything to say much about that definitively because that's some of the younger guys. You already taken the baton and ran with it, but us older guys, we had put it down in that time. You see what I'm saying? So if there's any definitive questions about some of the old times, see, the thing is, I might be the youngest old guy. You know what I'm saying? There are guys here that are older than me that have been in the game longer, but I'm the baddest of the whole group. So, ask about me. So, but with love, with 100% love coming from me, because I carry ATL on my back. And what they ask, what makes Atlanta different from everywhere else is because I'm here. So, feel really happy, that, the Dad Max is rolling around somewhere, Mexican Wolverine, trying to put us on. But it's kind of like how ATL was, when Outkast first came out, and talking that shit when they went up there and said, yo, the South got something to say. I did that, and there's a bunch of people here who've done the same thing, deserve the kind of credit. This chair that I'm sitting in can be swapped with a number of dudes out here that really are legit roadway legends when it comes to graffiti. Now, I'm talking about graffiti. The street artists love me too, but I'm a graffiti writer. I'm a vandal. I'm of the cloth. So at any point in time, any street artists, please watch your mouth, because we are in the building, As graffiti writers will fuck your shit up. So, oh my bad. Oh my bad. Kids, you didn't hear me. I was speaking French. Sorry, that's my Persian side jumping out on me. Okay, so did that answer it?
Yes. So thank you for that. So that kind of ties in what we're saying to the next question, which is, what did I think you talked about it a little bit, Total. What's different now versus when you started? Because kind of what we want to talk about here is the generation gap, if there is one, between, because graffiti is the first public art in Atlanta. Before graffiti, I think the only public art really was like Coca-Cola signs that were hand painted. So in the 80s, the what? The what? Wild, yeah. Yeah, but that even before that, I mean, you didn't really have a lot of public art before the Sparky Z's and all these guys from the 80s. And so in the 90s, when graffiti got popular, that was really the first time Atlanta had seen public art. And then in the following decade, in the 2000s, when public art becomes a little bit more acceptable in the city. So my question is really, what now that we're here, where public art is acceptable, and like Eric said, artists have opportunities here that you may not see in a lot of other places. Besides that, what other differences do you see now versus what it may have been earlier in the 80s or in the 90s or in the early thousands? What makes this period different?
In what side? In which side? Like in the street art side?
Well, in all of it, because all of it really is kind of public. All of it is art that's in public view, and I believe me, the difference between writing and street art and all of that is clear. But there is still something there may have been something that wasn't present in the 80s and 90s that is present now. And so that's what I kind of wanted to hear about, based on your experience.
As far as like my experience, I would throw out a few things. First, mentorship. I just remember I come from a school where people used to sit you down and used to have a piece of paper and some pens, and they used to give you like a name and tag, and they used to tell you, hey man, write this 100 times. They would give you, a certain type of style, throw you on missions, just try to motivate you just to write your name, just motivate you, just someone that was even older or someone even that was in your clique or older cousin or, a friend of yours, and like anybody like that wrote graffiti. Another thing that, you know, was popular when I was coming up, you know, because I came up in like 96, 97, in Real Crew in the Indianapolis area, like Midwest. So they brought me up, again, pens, paper. They were, take me out, just show me, just how like to rub a can, like give you caps. I remember caps was a big thing. You get caps, like cleaner caps from like a kitchen cleaner, a window cleaner or something like that, oven cleaner, now, and
Hello?
thank you. Even the cans, I remember even when Belton Molotov used to be featured like in the magazines. I mean, to me, like I was like, what the hell? I'm still buying Walmart, It's just now just the accessibility of, the popularity of graffiti. Now like the magazines were scarce. Now you can get magazines. Now you got the internet. Now you got Instagram. Like now the mentorship is out the building. No one sits anybody down and be like, yo, your tag is whack. What you're doing is not good. So it's like a lot of that going on. Like I came with people that would sit me down.
So let me, because I want to really ask this question. Because I understand the mentorship, the apprenticeship system, how it works in writing community. And it's always been a big part, like you said, the accessibility. But I really want to get Eric and Drew, was there a point where you learned from older muralists or people who were painting? Did you learn to paint, or did somebody show you, or was it something that you just kind of picked up and had to figure out on your own?
YouTube.
Well, for me, it was a friend who showed me. He was already painting out here, and I asked if he wouldn't mind one Saturday showing me what to do in the Croc Street tunnels, and we just kind of went at it. And then after that, I just started going to different events, like different festivals here. Whenever there were big artists showing up, and I would just sit there and watch. It sounds a little creepy, but you can learn a lot just by watching somebody work and seeing their process. And I think that's how I made a lot of my connections too, if they were friendly and wanted to talk. So I just kept practicing, and I just really, really liked it. I was surprised at how similar it was, because I use spray cans. I was surprised at how similar it was to painting. I had never made that connection before, and it just felt pretty natural.
Like, so was there a point where you were mentored, or did you apprentice under anyone? I mean, obviously you were an artist and you have the talent to be an
That's
artist.
good. They're trying to keep it under the graffiti thing. My experience was way different. What they do is it's a family thing. It's a crew gang. It's a whole different universe. Yeah. So I think if I benefited from that, I think it's just the awareness that these brothers put in and just made it like, yo, we out here doing art. And then finally the fucking machine catches up and they're like, damn, this is what fucking is really talking to the people. This is like authenticity, you know what I mean? And I think like all of us, like, I'm looking around, I know a lot of people here, like, you're all creatives in one way or another, and I think like everybody in the room is benefiting from the work that has been put in to show that we've been fly. Like he said it best, man, Outkast said it, like, we different down here. And it's special, and everybody should take advantage of it and also should pay homage because like it's just been lit time. And we're not catching on the trend, we are making the trend. It's been like that.
Do you all think that there is, so between the older generation, newer generation, do you think there is a gap? Do you think that there is Do you think the older generation, I mean, pretty much that's the question, do you think there is a gap? And I understand the graffiti and writing thing, you know, it's hard to make the connection, but the connection is really that it's you know, we kind of share, a lot of times we have to share the same space. Whether that's for better or for worse, and that's really the last question, so I don't want to get too deep into that. But do you think there is a gap between younger generation and older generation? As far as just the space that we have to share and occupy, how we get that space, how we take that space, obviously it differs. But do you think that do you think the older generation reaches back? And do you think the younger generation is open to receive? Sorry, Ricky.
I do not see a lot of the older generation of that. I don't see it. Sometimes when I see someone that's kind of cool, and maybe through like a lineage, or maybe if I know him, you know, if he's a friend of ours, you know what I mean, like just how my man them say, like the Donnie Brasco line, you know. But if they're cool, I may deal with them, but you know, if it's just somebody that you know, I may not, you know. But sometimes, you know, you just can't give it, you know, you just can't give out the secrets away. You can't give them out to everybody. Everybody don't deserve it, you know. It's only for like a select few, you know.
You say you don't have a question?
No, he's in the scale.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't want to follow you.
That's a hard act to follow.
I already know. Yeah, it's obvious. I mean, come on, man. Like, fuck these algorithms. Like, shit is, the gap is crazy. And what's crazy is, like, the way time is moving is not addition anymore. It's not 2 plus 2 equals 4, 4 plus 4 equals 8. Now it's multiplication. So the faster we grow, the faster, like, so yeah, there's a huge gap, and the gap is only gonna get bigger. And it's some scary shit. That's what I think.
I can't speak for everybody, but I do feel like for a lot of us who are just starting out and getting into it, it's almost like we never were in that environment to begin with, like the environment of artists just creating work, or maybe not all of us, but that was definitely like my experience. So when I kind of came and saw people working and tried to join the art scene, I actually just didn't really know where to go. So I think that kind of like contributes to the gap, because you just never know, okay, well, who is gonna actually want to talk to me, who is gonna feel like I'm not really worth their time, because I'm just like learning and I don't have much to contribute myself. Like at least that's how I felt when I first kind of tried to enter. So it's difficult. I feel like you just kind of have to push. But yeah, I think for a lot of us, it's just being uninformed about where to talk or who to talk to.
Yeah. No, I mean, and for those of us who've been around long enough, you know, pre-internet, I mean, I feel like writing has always been like that. When we all started, we didn't know how to do it. We just saw it, and you really had to go out and figure out how to do it. You had to go out and meet these people who were doing this, and that was a big part of it. That was a big part of the mystique, and not knowing who any of these people were, and you kind of just had to, you know, like I said, figure it out. But I also think that at least in the writing community, in the graffiti community, there's, you know, once people know who you are, older writers, a lot of times they will say, okay, you know, maybe we'll bring this guy on, right? So I think that happens, and I was just curious to hear, especially from Drew and from Eric, who are a little younger than the other two elder statesmen up here. You know, if that's still something that was, if that's something that happens, when you guys started, was it difficult to kind of figure it all out? Because there's a lot to figure out. I mean, whatever your discipline is, there's still a lot to figure out. So, and I guess this will be the last question. We'll take questions from the audience after this, but, you know, okay.
I just wanted to make sure that everybody got their stuff, because I kind of want to break it down, break it a little bit harder. I remember that old dirty bastard copy. Okay. All right. So this is going to be a bit long-winded, but I think you can benefit from some of this, because where I'm coming from is I'm not considered an old schooler, even though I fall into some of the old school category. There's multiple myriad ways of looking at this. So when you say there's a gap, a generational gap, there's a duty on both sides to kind of play certain parts and lead with respect and be willing to learn and be willing to teach. Now there's quite a few malnourished people who would want to learn or who would want to teach, and I call them malnourished because they're not fit to teach and they're not fit to learn. There are some people out there who are only as loyal as their last meal and what they can take from you, whether it be knowledge or your companionship or etc. Or there are some older gentlemen who just take advantage because of your naivety, and they'll take your money, they'll take your time, they'll take anything from you. And I've seen older gentlemen and them abuse and take from younger writers because of this thirst of knowledge that they're basically just doing like a little drip to these young, inspiring minds. Then you have these young guys that are like, you know what? The sun's not even all that fresh. Like, I mean, he might have been dope in like 85, but yo, look, he's over here. I'm having to drive him all around. Now I'm taking him to every Starbucks. Now I'm paying for all these, whatever it is that he wants. I gotta buy the paint. I gotta fill in or whatever. Like there are a bunch of things involved in both sides. Okay, now here's what you gotta understand from where I'm coming from, right? Even though my class of writers, many younger writers would consider an old schoolers, right? But I move like a young guy. I move like a young guy. My skills are higher than most young guys, and even the street art people can't fuck with me. Excuse my language. But it's because of my pursuit of the knowledge that the people who were kind enough to teach me, that I adhere to those principles and use them. Now, there are not a lot of people like that, so I find myself in situations where every now and again I try to be an uncle to some of these people out here who try to use the can, who are basically disciples of the can work. And many a times, especially when I was younger, I couldn't teach them, because it's kind of like, okay, if I'm going to teach you something, you already have something written in your book. You just know where for me to write upon. You haven't given me a blank page for me to teach you the true sacred math of the letter. Now, I'm not talking about characters, y'all. I ain't talking about how pretty faces and little birds and, you know, you draw a girl with a cow skull. That got nothing to do with graffiti writing, right? Where I'm talking about is pure graffiti writing, letter bending, the art of the letter, the art of the sacred math of what we find is style, okay? So I'm just talking about that right now. And that's what I love, and that's what many people in here love. Now, here's the thing, right? You can only get it from the Mecca. It had to start from New York, and you have to find a direct line from New York all the way to here. Now, I did. okay? Tats crew put me on proper game because most of the old Atlanta writers were not kind enough to teach me. Matter of fact, they all pushed against me. They didn't like me. And very few Atlanta writers showed me any support. Very few. Especially difficult coming from, the gang life where I'm striking up the hood. I'm not really trying to, dazzle you with my letters and stuff like that. I just found that later. Now, fast forward to now, I'm a vet, but I still have that young mind, and I still would love to see my scene, my city, progress with style, because that's the only way that anyone outside of Atlanta is going to pay any attention to you. If everybody in this room was nice, we literally would be a factor in the conversation. I want all of y'all to understand that graffiti writing is the first American-born art form. Everything else came from somewhere else, whether it be drawing and painting, chalk, all that came from Europe, that came from Africa, that came from Asia. This is ours. Graffiti writing with the can, the art of the can, this is ours. This is real Americana right here, all right? So we have to hold a certain level of expectation of our craft, right? Look what happened to rap, okay? Now, because the OGs that are currently here, it's the same thing why b-boying is so nasty now. They're incredible now, they're like Superman, because the OGs from the b-boying world stayed there and are as judges. So they judge who makes it to the top. LL Cool J is not judging one of these lils out here with Cheeto dreads talking about, yeah, he's gonna progress. He's not allowed to. He's like, you know what, old guy, get out of my way. What are your old ass in my damn way? No, what you don't understand is the mathematics that he possesses. You should be well versed in that. This man right here is mathematics. I wish everyone in here just check his math on what he's done in the trains in the late 80s. Jesus. Even to this day, people use this guy's math. There are other people out there whose math, you don't even know what you're doing. You saw it on the net or you saw it somewhere else. Now an old guy, such as myself, who can speak to the young guys, only can speak to the young guys because I'm nasty. Now, the old guys, they get tired. I know because I'm tired as I sit here talking to you. And they get tired and they don't want to explain it to young guys. They don't want to sit there and do they don't want to plant seed. I really believe you got to plant the seed. But it's really hard to plant the seed in someone who really themselves are not 100% like, yeah man, you're the truth. You see? And I feel like that causes the gap to divide farther and farther and farther. And a lot of old guys, we ain't gonna go out and do no vandalism. We just can't. I'm a commercial property owner. I'm not out there like being able to give.